ever just find yourself like staring out the window and thinking, wait, what am I even doing here? What is like the point of all this?
Oh, yeah, totally.
Yeah. Something I think we all wonder about sometimes. And that's kind of what we're diving into today, like this idea of finding our purpose, our reason for being, but through the lens of God's plan.
That's definitely a big one, right? This whole meaning of life thing. People have been wrestling with that question forever.
Seriously, forever. And our source today really zeroes in on this verse from the Bible, Jeremiah 29:1.
Yeah.
You know that one. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. It's become super popular, maybe even feels kind of cliche at this point. But we're going deeper than that today. Like, beyond just the nice words, what's the real message behind this verse?
Right, right. And I think a good place to start is with the context. Like, who was Jeremiah even talking to when he said this? Well, it was actually to the Israelites during their exile in Babylon.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so like, picture it, you're ripped from your homeland, everything you know is gone, and the future is totally uncertain.
You're just completely lost.
Completely. So for them, hearing God say, I have plans for you, that wasn't just a feel-good message, it was like a lifeline, a promise that even in this mess, there's still hope.
And like a personal promise too, right?
Absolutely. This wasn't God laying out some grand scheme for humanity as a whole. He was speaking directly to them, to the Israelites. And I think that's crucial.
It applies to us too, right?
Oh, yeah. It's just as relevant today as it was back then. God's not offering some cookie-cutter plan. He's got a specific, unique plan for each of us.
Okay, but how does that even work, though? Like, life can feel so chaotic sometimes. Bills to pay, deadlines, traffic jams. How do we square that with this idea of a divine plan? You know, like it's all playing out behind the scenes.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think that's where faith comes in. But it's not just about sitting back and waiting for God to do everything for us. The source mentions these practical steps we can take to figure out what God's plan is for us.
Oh, practical steps. So, like, what? Does God send us an email with a list of instructions or something?
Well, not quite. But it makes me think about how God gives us certain gifts, talents, passions.
Okay.
Those are like clues. They're hints about where we might fit into the bigger picture. And then we can use prayer, reflection, even talking to mentors or people we trust. Those are all ways to sort of connect with our inner voice, figure out where those talents and passions could be used in the world.
It's almost like those talents are a starting point.
Exactly, like a launch pad.
So it's less about waiting for some grand revelation and more about making choices day by day that align with what we think God's plan might be.
Exactly. It's not like God's got this rigid, predetermined path for us. There's actually been a lot of debate about that, like free will versus divine will. But maybe it's more about seeing God's plan as working together with our own choices.
Okay, so maybe it's not so much about God forcing us onto a certain path.
Yeah, more like he's giving us a compass, pointing us in the right direction. We still get to choose how we walk that path.
I like that. It's like he's giving us the tools to navigate.
And the freedom to make mistakes along the way, because that's how we learn and grow too, right?
Right. And speaking of navigating, our source uses this phrase, walking in alignment with God's plan.
Ah, yes.
What does that actually look like? Like practically in our daily lives, not just theoretically.
Well, I think it starts with intentionality, like being conscious of our choices, asking God for guidance through prayer, taking time to reflect. There are also these spiritual disciplines, things like studying the Bible or finding ways to serve others. And those things can help us align our hearts and minds with God's will, to live with that purpose in mind.
So it's less of a one and done thing. It's this ongoing process, this journey of continually aligning ourselves.
Exactly. And the cool thing is, even when we feel lost, we can trust that God is using everything, our experiences, choices, even our struggles. All of it is shaping us into the people we're meant to be. So even the journey itself is part of the purpose.
Wow. So wrapping this up, it sounds like there are a plan, a unique one for each of us. And it's not about some mystical experience. It's about making choices, trusting God, and being open to where that leads us, even when it's hard.
Well said. And that reminds me, our source ends with this line: subscribe for weekly inspiration. But beyond that, I want to ask you, what's one small step you could take this week to intentionally seek that alignment?
Ooh, I like that.
Like, what action can you take, even a tiny one, to connect with what you believe God's plan might be for you? Maybe it's finally starting that journaling practice you've been thinking about, or reaching out to a mentor for advice. It could even be saying yes to something that scares you a little.
Food for thought for sure.
Yeah.
Thanks for diving deep with me today.
Anytime. It was a great conversation.
And for everyone listening, keep searching, keep exploring. This whole purpose thing, it's a journey, and it's yours to discover.
Absolutely.
We'll get you next time on The Deep Dive.